You know, there are many, many ways that the IRS tries to intimidate you, mislead you, any way they can to get you to comply with paying more money or not questioning them. We're going to talk about a few of those ways, only about 10 of them in this session. So here goes. The first one is you will go to jail. You know, going to jail is the biggest fear that people have about being audited or about the IRS ever asking them a question. The facts are that there is less than 1/24,000th of a chance that anybody would ever go to jail because of the IRS. And all of those people that ever get in jail have been outright fraud of the IRS or committed some crime. It's rare upon rare that the IRS can ever really put you in jail for an innocent miscalculation or something you thought could be deducted. That's just a big intimidation thing. You're going to go to jail, and you're not. There's a higher probability that you would be struck by lightning 10 times before you'd ever go to jail because of an IRS issue. Another thing that is often said by the IRS, this really does happen all the time, is you owe more taxes. You owe more money to the IRS. Well, do you know that all income tax forms are audited by the IRS, either by hand or most of it is all done by computer. They send all the taxes through the computer, and of course when you do it online it's much faster than when you do it by hand. So all taxes, all forms are audited. Just because you don't get a letter from the IRS or don't saying that you were now going to audit, that's a face-to-face audit or a letter audit or some other kind of audit. That doesn't mean that that's the only time you're ever audited. All forms are audited. So you have been audited every single year. You just didn't know it. Now, they send out thousands upon thousands of machine correction audits saying, okay, you owe more taxes because you miscalculated or you didn't do this or you didn't do that. If they don't say exactly line item by line item why you owe more taxes, or if they tell you that you added this wrong and you look at it and you didn't add it wrong, you just need to write them back a form, send that letter with it, and say, prove to me that I actually owe these taxes. Send me another form and document this. 90% of the time they just won't even respond to that, because 50% of the time their actual notices that they send out are wrong. So you don't owe it anyway. But people are so intimidated that they will just plain pay the money. So the next thing they'll say is, your proof for this deduction is not sufficient. You know, I've had my share of audits with the IRS. That is a very common thing. They say, well, you don't have enough proof, or I'm not accepting this proof. Remember, the auditor has one thing that he's supposed to be doing, and that is validating whether or not your income tax is accurate. They have no authority whatsoever to be adding penalties, to be doing this, to be changing that. They don't have any authority to be doing that. The only reason why the IRS audits is to try to collect more money. There's no other reason. They have to prove 90% of what they're trying, the way they get more money is intimidation and bluffing. So just plain don't buy it. The next thing that they'll try to do is they'll say, I can't allow additional deductions. Well, the facts of the matter are they don't have any choice. If you have additional deductions that you did not put on your tax form for that year, you can add it any time. They have no authority to say you can't do it, but they'll try to bluff you into it. They could say, well, you have to send in a whole new tax form, which is an amended tax form. That's not true either. You could do that, but you don't have to. That's just, most of what the IRS does when they try to intimidate. It's just pure lying. Another thing that they'll try to do is no witnesses are allowed in this conference. See, when they tell you that you're going to be audited face to face, they'll say, give you a time and you're supposed to show up at the office, at the IRS local office. You get there because you got a friend for moral support, and they say no witnesses are allowed in the conference. That's just another bluff. That's not true. Each time the IRS tries to tell you, or the auditor tries to tell you that this and that, tell them to give you chapter and verse that is actually true. Because you can have anybody in there you want. They came to my house one time, and they said, instead of asking me to go to the office because they were going to stay here for like 3 days, I said, well, I'm just going to record all this. Well, their bluff was, you can't record anything. It's not allowed. Well, that's just a bluff too. The next thing they try to do is they insist or demand that you sign a waiver or some other kind of piece of paper. And usually it says that they're going to change your taxes and you don't have any recourse, or you agree to everything they say. Do not sign any form whatsoever when you are in the tax audit itself. Wait till later. Consult some sort of attorney or a CPA or somebody else about signing a form. Even if your CPA goes and they offer you a form and the CPA says you're going to have to sign it, I wouldn't even do it then, because there are so many CPAs who are also intimidated by the IRS. So always wait till a later time to sign a form. Another thing that the auditors do is they say you must appear at this conference, this auditor conference, when the IRS tells you, and you don't have any choices about when this is. In fact, that's not true either, because the code says that they have to arrange a time that is convenient for them, for the IRS, and convenient for the taxpayer. You don't want to go to the audit without being prepared. You need really to be prepared for this audit. Besides, you may be out of the country, out of state, out of town, something. They don't have the final word on it. The next thing that they could say to you is you owe penalties. Well, not necessarily. There's a lot of times when you don't owe penalties. You haven't even figured out if you really do owe more taxes. Remember, the auditor, his only job is to make sure that the numbers that are on your tax return are accurate. They cannot assess the penalties, more penalties. That's just another way to intimidate you. Now, if you say to them, well, I'll just, I disagree with you, so I'm just going to take it to tax court. Another intimidation they do is they'll tell you that there's a 90% chance that the IRS will win your case. They don't have a 90% record. The IRS has less than 10% record of winning of all the people who have applied to tax court or disagreed with the IRS. So that's just a big blown up thing. There's no truth to that at all. And then another thing that they will say is the IRS will add the penalty if you go to court. That has nothing to do with anything. The penalties have nothing at all to do with going to court. That's a totally independent thing. Just because this is all pretty intimidating just to think about the whole matter, keep in mind that the IRS auditor's real thing is to only validate the accuracy of your return. However, just like I said, the only reason why the IRS sends out auditors is to get more money. They do all sorts of stuff to intimidate you into paying more money. Well, you can find out more information about all things related to tax at our website, www.newtaxchangesforinvestors.com. Thanks. See you later.